Welcome to the Global Business Insights podcast, brought to you by PSL. I'm your host, Max Kent, and I'll be joined by my co-host, Dr. Charlotte de Brabant. In Series 2, Beyond Business, we delve into the captivating journeys of the world's most exceptional business leaders, entrepreneurs, and professionals. Our mission is not only to ignite inspiration and knowledge for the next generation, but also to illuminate the path for those currently navigating challenges. Join us as we uncover the remarkable stories that transcend traditional business narratives and offer a beacon of hope and guidance.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Global Business Insight podcast. I'm so thrilled to have a very special guest with us back this time, Lucy. Thank you so much for joining us again in this great session. I would say the feedback we got last time after your session was just phenomenal. So we just had to bring you back to our podcast. And it's such a great pleasure to be here with Max Kent, once again, my partner in crime. Lucy,
Hi,
hello, why don't we just kick off by just having a quick introduction about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Lucy Day. I'm Senior Solutions Specialist at Proactis. So I work within the global pre-sales team, and I have the absolute honour and privilege of getting behind the driving seat of our technology and giving demonstrations to our customers and prospects. But more than that, really kind of working with them to understand what are they trying to achieve, what are their outcomes in terms of streamlining their overall procurement processes, and helping them get there. I'm absolutely delighted to have been asked back. It's obviously an honour and a privilege, so looking forward to getting into it.
Fantastic. Well, why don't we just kick off right away with our first question. Lucy, maybe you can take us through your journey in the procurement and spend management software industry. And maybe you could also highlight some of the key stages of your career development and how you became a specialist in this field.
Well, without wanting to give my age away, I came into the kind of professional world very, very young. I had a brief stint at university and then decided actually I want to get out there, and I kind of fell into the software world really by accident, and I started working for a payment solutions provider in the commercial team, and it was kind of from there that I transitioned to working for an Infor systems partner in London, and this is now circa 2005, so quite a long time ago. Feels like only yesterday, but that's really where I started to kind of get into the wonderful world of procurement, and that was across everything, from purchase to pay and sourcing and contract management and supplier relationship management. And it was a really, really different world back then. Procurement was very centralized. You wouldn't have the notion of people going out and raising purchase requests for what they wanted would just horrify people back then. It was very much something that was still very centralized and restricted within a certain group of people, more often than not within finance, and very manual, very, very manual. And I suppose really what attracted me to kind of procurement and spend management is it out of all the projects that I've ever kind of worked in and delivered, they are the ones where I have seen the biggest impact in terms of the outcomes that implementing technology has brought. And I think for me, I think people that know me know that I'm quite a detailed person. I like to get into the granularity of things. I like to really pick things apart and really understand where are their gaps, where are their inefficiencies. And, I would sometimes just go in and sit with people and just say, walk me through how you're raising orders today. Talk me through that entire journey. And I would just sit there and I would listen, I would note it all down, I'd map it out. Because for me, you know, it's really about understanding those inefficiencies and those gaps, and kind of really teasing out that pain that kind of fully allows you to kind of get immersed in their world and understand kind of where they're coming from, and then aligning the solution from that, and then kind of agreeing, right, okay, what are the outcomes, what are the metrics that we're trying to achieve through this, so that you collectively go into the agreement, you know, with them and with your technology partner, that this is what we're going to deliver. So I think it was just that constant curiosity that I've had in my career, and that level of engagement that I love having. I'm very much a people person, that I think has kind of brought me to where I am today. And it's certainly that constant questioning, that constantly wanting to get into the detail, and really listening to kind of where the kind of pains and efficiencies are, that help me be able to help and support our customers and prospects in the most helpful way.
Brilliant. Thanks, Lucy. Just to echo Charlotte, it's lovely to have you on again. Great to have you attending the podcast back by popular demand. And great to hear your start to your journey. Having worked closely with you previously, during your time when we were together at Complete Software, and previously to that, you're at Sage, you've been really involved in digital procurement services. So maybe you could share with us some insights into some of the challenges that organisations that you've come across face in that area, and how those roles maybe contributed to addressing some of those challenges.
Yeah, a really good question. I think one of the biggest challenges that seemed to be part of every conversation I was having was simply accessing the data to drive meaningful insight. Procurement as a function, you can't kind of put your finger on the air, and we know that procurement as a function is under increasing pressure to perform, and it's a function that's changing, it's evolving. You know, it's not a case of we got to save 10% here, we've got to save 20% there. They've got to mitigate risk, they've got to make sure things are compliant, you know, they've got to make sure that, you know, sustainability, which is a huge thing, as we know, that's coming in, you know, how are they supporting the organization with scope 1 and 2, bringing in scope 3 to create that full kind of sustainability piece. Now, you know, all of that is based on having the data to make those decisions effectively. And, you know, I used to have conversations with people where I said, you know, how many suppliers do you have in this category? And they'd be like, I don't know. And, you know, if they're having that problem, you know, how could they make a decision on whether they need to do a supplier consolidation project if they don't know how many suppliers they're working with within a category? And if they can't, you know, kind of get that data, and they're struggling at that level, then it's going to be almost impossible for them to get the kind of actual detail of the spend itself, and then identify where potential savings can come from. So I think just being able to get access to the data is certainly a challenge, and we see that, you know, all the time. There's, you know, manual processes in play, there's things on spreadsheets, there's data in silos, that all compounds the problem. But I think then there's a kind of further challenge where it's actually a lack of cleanliness of the data itself. You know, we know the saying, you put rubbish in, you get rubbish out, but that is absolutely true. And certainly for me, in the roles that I have and had, it was really important to understand, how is that data being managed, how accurate is it, and actually work with them to get to a point where it was accurate and it could be used for reporting. Because the worst thing in the world, you know, as someone, you know, trying to help someone achieve outputs, is giving them a bit of a bum steer, and the data not needing to give the insight that it needed to. So it's not just necessarily about having the appropriate reporting capability. It's about making sure the data that's underneath it is bang on. But then, as I say, having the BI tools that would present the metrics in the right way to the right people based on what their roles were within the organisation. And as we well know, procurement spans finance, procurement, and they look at the world very differently. So again, it's about aligning those two functions together and giving them the insights that were necessary, and that in itself can sometimes be a challenge.
Thank you so much for sharing. And in your role at Touchstone FMS, you managed relationships with over 50 clients across various sectors. Maybe you could just discuss a specific example for our listeners where you successfully helped a client overcome a significant challenge through the implementation of software or digital transformation.
Wow, there's quite a few to choose from. But I think one of the projects that sticks out in my mind, and was actually one of the ones that I was kind of most proud to be involved with, was with an organisation that I'd actually looked after and account managed for over 10 years, and they followed me. I was with one organisation, I moved, and they came with. So I'm that says something, I hope. But they engaged with me to talk about a project. They'd had a new commercial director come in. She was very, very hungry. She had big aspirations to kind of really transition them from where they were to kind of being a major player in their market. And as commercial director, no surprises that she was really there to kind of look at the sales revenue and increase that. And she was very much of the mindset when we initially sat down and spoke to her that came from a sales order management system, an invoicing system, a CRM solution, and to a certain extent it does. But we spent a lot of time, and this kind of circles back to kind of what I was talking about originally about investing time in people and processes to really understand what the broader landscape looks like. It's never about kind of one thing in my experience. We spent a lot of time with her, other sort of key stakeholders in the business to kind of understand that overall business model. How were they kind of functioning within the sort of whole organisation? How did all of that hinge together? We wanted to understand the personas involved, the processes involved, because people and processes are like peas and carrots. You've got to have both working effectively for it all to come together. And it transpired that their bigger issue was actually they had a complete lack of visibility over their costs. So they're an organisation that sort of blended oils and other sort of lubricants and things together to then make an end product that they would sell. And all of that was being done manually. So all of the purchasing was being done manually. There was no visibility of spend. A lot of the cost of the products were being massively underestimated from a cost perspective. They had spreadsheets that were inaccurate, and they had somebody within the organisation that was quite precious about said spreadsheets and wouldn't share them, and there was a lot going on. But what we kind of presented to them was, look, you can't really make a decision on your sales margin without knowing what your cost base is. You've got to get a much tighter control over that and have spend visibility, not spent visibility, because the horse has already bolted, sort of thing. So we ended up kind of completely re-engineering what they thought they needed, and we started to engage them, talking about purchase to pay, contract management, spend visibility. And it was a project that took quite a long time to kind of get over the line, because as we know, with procurement and kind of digitizing that, more often than not, there is going to be quite a cultural shift that needs to happen. That there needs to be a change of attitude of people, and a change of process. But they did go live quite a number of months later with a P2P solution, and it was a fantastic project, because we went in and did regular post-implementation reviews with them. The feedback that we got from that was absolutely fantastic. They even gave the project a name. They called it Project Ignite, because they wanted to bring it to life within their organisation and really make people feel excited about it. And it was a really great project to be involved in, and did what it needed to. It did allow them to get that control of cost. It did allow them to have that greater level of visibility, which then gave her a much more confident position to be coming from, to say, well, look, I know now what our products are costing us. Therefore, I know that if we're wanting to, increase our margins, we're either going to be looking at ways in which we can reduce that cost, or we need to be looking at, what we're potentially selling from a price point of view. So it was a really good project, one I'm very proud of, and I still keep in touch with them to this day.
It's amazing to hear, and I think all of your energy and enthusiasm to sort of be hungry to keep learning and improving sort of plays out right across your career. So all the examples you've given just make that building of learning and that knowledge kind of increase with every role you've had. So at Proactis, you mentioned senior solution specialist, so I'm assuming that kind of builds on all of that and brings that to the fore. How does that differ or build on the roles you've had previously? And so what sort of unique skills and expertise do you help bring to those organizations, and obviously to then help them take care of their control, take control of their spend and control of their supply chain?
I think from my point of view, having been in this for as long as I have, I kind of came into the kind of the working world, where solution selling would be features and benefits, and features and functions, and it would be very much led by the solution, the conversation. And from my experience, and just certainly, when I call myself a senior solution specialist, I'm not thinking about anyone's solution in mind. I'm thinking about the problem, I'm thinking about the desired outcome, and I'm thinking about how I'm going to solve it. That's what I position myself as when I say I'm a senior solution specialist. I'm not here to talk to you about product. I'm here to understand what your challenges are, where are you feeling pain, and what are the implications of that pain within your organization and to the individuals that we're talking to, because I think you need to remember that pain is felt differently by different people, even if it's the same pain. So it's very much about understanding all of that, and the desired outputs, and kind of talking through how technology can support getting there. And sometimes that can be a conversation where actually you kind of got to think, well, yeah, you're doing it this way at the moment, but actually, from my experience and having worked with these organizations very similar to you, that's actually not the way that we would recommend doing it. And using the years of experience that myself and my colleagues at Proactis have, to really kind of talk to what good looks like, and that isn't ever from a functional perspective within our software. It comes from a process perspective, and then aligning the metrics to that. It's all very well and good saying, oh, we've been in the market for this many years and we do this and this, but what we have within Proactis is a significant footprint and a customer base where we can actually talk to the metrics of what we've delivered. This is the outcomes that we achieved for these very similar clients to yourself. So from our point of view, it's very much about understanding the pain, understanding where the challenges are, where are you trying to get to, what are the outcomes that you're trying to achieve, and then aligning the solution. A conversation about digital transformation should never be technology led, it should be outcome led. What is it that by doing this we're trying to achieve, and then how can we use technology to support us being able to achieve that?
Lucy, I could not agree more with you, especially with your last statement. Your experience spans several companies and roles within software and the whole technology industry. How have you seen the whole landscape of procurement and spend management evolve over the years? And what emerging trends do you believe will actually shape the industry in the next coming years?
I mean, there's certainly been a lot of change. I alluded to that initially, where I'd go in and I'd be having a conversation about procurement with finance, which was always quite interesting. And I think the expectation now of procurement has changed. I think the expectation of what people can do within their businesses has changed. So I think way back when, it was all about control, wasn't it? And it still is, but now it's more, we want to be able to give everyone within the organization the ability to buy things, but we want to do that in the most optimized way possible. So how can we have a platform that's really going to drive that user adoption, and make things as easy for that buyer, but has the rigidity within the system to maintain the control, but do so subtly that the buyer never knows anything about it. And it's really become that balance of between efficiency and control. And I've certainly seen historically there was always an imbalance where control would come first, and then you'd kind of look at the metrics of when the system had gone live, and several months later why there were loads of retrospective orders being raised. Well, quelle surprise, go and have a look at how people engage with the system. If it's not optimized, if it's not easy, if it's not familiar, they're going to step outside of that process. So I've certainly seen in recent years the whole kind of guided buying experience be very much front and center of procurement, mindset and finance mindset. Let's see how the end user is going to engage with this system first, because if we don't get that right, we've got a problem, because people are just going to carry on doing things outside of the system, which we can't have. So, the whole kind of online buying experience about giving information to create a cost consciousness within the organization. I want my users to have the information to make an informed buying decision, and I don't want to be bringing procurement in every time. If there's a sourcing exercise to do for a more sophisticated procurement, or it's regulated and it's got to go through a certain process, by all means, but day to day we should have a system that allows people to get the things quickly and easily that they need, and gives them the information to help them make a decision within the system. So that's certainly been a big change. I think also as well, I think another thing, as we mentioned before, is just harnessing the data and being able to have a robust reporting engine over the top of the solution, which allows you to get access to that, to start making those really important decisions. And without that data and it presented in such a way it gives the insights, it's very, very difficult to kind of do that. I think the other thing I've certainly seen that seems to be kicking in is AI. We've seen artificial intelligence coming into the kind of working world. We use it in our personal lives, whether or not we know it. I mean, when you go on to Netflix, as an example, when you have all of the suggested for you, that's an AI engine doing that. So it really is coming into the world, and we're seeing more and more from it, within the procurement and spend management space. Predictive coding is something that we're starting to see. People are asking more questions about how can we leverage artificial intelligence to actually reduce the burden of doing coding, making sure that we have some kind of automation there that guides us. It's never going to replace the human being. It's about having a co-worker help you. But that's certainly something that we're seeing more and more people ask about, and there is an expectation, that will be invested and be used within the organisation. I think the other thing we haven't sort of talked about, but again, I certainly see as really important now within a lot of the organisations we work with and we talk to, is supplier risk. I think that the world over the last 5 years has changed massively. I think we've seen, the impacts of COVID and what that's had. I think there's a huge focus on, sustainability, and are we working with a supplier that actually is meeting what they've put out there in the public domain that they are working towards from an ESG target perspective. And I hate to say it, financial viability of suppliers. How many major high street brands have we seen completely evaporate off the face of the earth because of, the way the world's changed? So supplier risk is something that seems to be very front and center of people's minds at the moment, because the impact of working with a supplier that's not ethical, or the impact of working with a supplier who's critical to your business, who goes bankrupt the following day, could be significant. So having the ability to get that insight into suppliers, and again have that data to really make a decision: is this supplier the right one for us to be working with? Are they right for us? Are they safe? That seems to be something that certainly back in when I first started working this, it wasn't given necessarily as much time and attention as it should be, but it's very much seems to be very much front and center of what we're talking about.
I think you're absolutely right there. And supplier risk, supplier onboarding, supplier management has all kind of got much more popular over the last 3-4 years for all the reasons you've detailed there. And I think what the sea change will be is that the companies that realizing that they're being profiled on that risk and then losing business as a result, which will really kind of force that change, where businesses start to make decisions on who they buy from because of that visibility of that data, that kind of 360 view of that person, that business they're buying from. So I think you're absolutely right there. And having spent some time with you recently on recent conferences and things like that, I've got a bit of insight on some of the things Proactis are doing. Are you able to share any more information on some of the tools that are coming out, or anything that you might be able to share with our listeners? I know some of it's probably confidential. So,
well, we ran our kind of headline event earlier this month, which I'm delighted to say was a phenomenal success. We ran two, one for North America and one within Europe, because obviously we're a global organisation. And we did make an announcement in that event that we are working on, and it will be coming soon, Proactis Brago CAI, CAI. If anyone is interested in knowing more about it, you can visit our website, which is www.proactis.com/CAI. But essentially what that will be is our coding AI. So sort of talking about what I said earlier is one of the kind of key things and the hot topics that's kind of really coming into play at the moment. It's about using artificial intelligence to support the coding of purchase orders and invoices, and really using it as a support mechanism to kind of automate that function. So I can't really say too much more about it. It is coming soon. If you'd like to register, or if anyone watching this wants to register early interest and finding out more, then they can do that on our website.
Wow, this sounds so exciting. I will definitely register. Lucy, as a senior solution specialist at Proactis, what are the key drivers and objectives for Proactis in this current market, and how do you envision your role contributing to the company's success in achieving these goals?
I mean, we talk about current market. If I can just sort of talk about Proactis as an organisation and where we've come from, we've always been about, and we always will be about, delivering value to our customers, and we do that through our people, and we do it through our technology. And I've deliberately said we do it with our people first, because we are a people first organisation. Within our own organisation, our people are put first, and we are very much working with customers on a daily basis, constantly engaging with them to kind of look at how they're operating, what do their processes look like today. Because I think a lot of people pick a technology partner very much on kind of what they see, and it gets to the implementation, and then that's over, and it's kind of like the honeymoon period is done. You're married now. That's it. That's not what Proactis is about. We've never been about that. It's very much about the constant re-engagement, as I say, with our customers, and we've worked really hard to instill a customer success team that does that, and works with our clients on a daily basis. And in terms of my role, I support that really by supporting them, and having those conversations with our clients, and accepting that technology never stops moving forward, even our own. Businesses change all of the time. New people come in, acquisitions are made, processes change. So even with the clients that we have, it's about making sure that they are still getting the value from our technology. It's about making sure that we understand what their outputs are, and if those outputs have changed, then we work with them to adapt our technology to ensure that they meet the new outputs that are necessary. And I think when I look at some of the accreditations that we have, and some of the things that we're really proud of as an organisation, we have a 96 customer retention rate, which in the SaaS market is phenomenal and virtually unheard of. Our longest service client has been with us for 26 years. And again, that's virtually unheard of. But the reason why we do that is, as I say, we're engaging, and we're more about understanding our customers, their processes, their outputs, and their people first, and then aligning the technology accordingly. That's how we operated years ago. It's how we will always operate going into the future, because I think a lot of people think technology moves fast and therefore you need to hop beds. You don't. You just need to find the right technology partner to work with that's going to constantly invest in you, your people, and align their technology to your outcomes.
Absolutely. And like the saying goes, right? You tell technology what to do, and don't let technology rule you.
100%. 100%.
Lucy, it was such a great pleasure.
Apart from Alexa, maybe. You tell Alexa what to do.
Alexa never listens to me.
No, or me.
But Lucy, it was so much fun to have you with us here once again, and thank you very much for your time, and thank you for our listeners once again for tuning back in. It's always so much fun to be discussing these future-oriented topics together.
Absolutely. Thanks again, Lucy. Pleasure to have you on.
No problem at all. Thank you so much. As I said, it's an honour and a privilege to have been asked, and greatly appreciated. Thanks.